terribly sorry for the disconnect. I've been having a lot of cooling issues with this particular unit. I have been advised previously that once or twice trying to reconnect is fine, but if things go as they have with this machine, we got about 20 minutes, and it'll cheese out within that if I didn't get the cooling adjusted properly. Again, terribly sorry for those of you who were tuned in. Yeah, I'm currently still waiting for all my tabs to renew and all that business. You're in the middle of an article, of course, and so yeah, I definitely got to get that PSU upgraded like ASAP. It was something that I was planning on taking care of as soon as I got somewhere with my trading. But that got the kibosh put on it by just a massive flash crash. If you guys trade, you probably experienced that yourself, and yeah, it was not pleasant, and it was entirely manipulated. I don't think you can get that kind of coordination going across multiple exchanges like that without collusion at the most basic level. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think that we're probably going to see that precipitous tanking, and it'll be pretty much in line with the precipitous rise here. It might be a little bit slower, but not much. So if you're looking to short stuff, I think shorting Bitcoin is going to be profitable. But that's just my thought. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to pay me any mind. But I've been right so far about its travel. We topped out at about 80K, back down around 77.4 right now. So, the retrace is, I think it's in, and it's likely to continue. And yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty sharp fall. Got a few catalysts on the periphery. Not the least of which being Iran. I also saw something recently where supposedly the water systems in 7 states have had issues. Now, I have a hard time, blaming that specifically on, say, hackers or anything like that. I think it's more likely to be Israel, because whenever things don't go their way, they start whining and bitching and complaining and like lighting stuff on fire that doesn't belong to them. Yeah, it's a trend, that you're not going Israel's way. You're not doing what Israel wants you to do. You're not going and dying for Israel. Then all of a sudden bad things happen to you, And it's not some sort of godly influence or anything like that. It's that Israelis are fairly well connected. Mossad is one of the most competent intelligence agencies on the planet. So, yeah, to even dream up something like Stuxnet, not even considering the kind of skill it took to actually get it to the facility that it was designed and intended for, because the facility was actually underground. It was air gapped, fucking underground, like all kinds of security precautions done to try to retain its security, and what did not fucking help. The Israelis still found out about it, still found it, still figured out how to get a thumb drive in there, still managed to connect directly to one of the centrifuges, and throwing off its timing with Stuxnet. So, come on now. You can't tell me they aren't skilled. So, the possibility of having that level of intrusion here in the United States to where, oh, what? You're not doing what we want you to do? Okay, we're going to fuck with your water systems. Because we got that kind of connection. Well, the thing about those kind of connections is, if the people you are doing it to are actually watching for you to do it, and you do it, you end up burning whatever asset it was, because now they know who was going to be involved in whatever fuckery you were going to conduct. It's double edge of the sword. Only I think at this point Israel is desperate enough that they'd be willing to burn it anyway, because they're looking at, you got annihilation on this hand because you pissed off 7 other fucking countries, and then you got these guys who say they're your friends, and they do a lot of stuff for you, and you happen to have a whole lot of control over them, so you're gonna flex that control when you're not getting what you want. Anyway, so yeah, I had this thing here, and we're gonna give it a try. If they haven't actually disconnected me on Twitter, which I'll look just to check and verify. I think I'm still on there. I'm still alive in spaces, aren't I? But like I said, we got about 10 minutes if I didn't adjust it properly. And so we'll go with it. And if it disconnects, I am not going to try to reconnect today, not until I have my cooling issue 100% fully resolved. And there is one other issue. This is actually episode 5, and there was just a miscommunication on our labeling, but the title, Sobering to Reality. So, let me bring up this article here. Here we go. Judge, short-barreled rifle suppressor NFA registration scheme unconstitutional. This is on the Second Amendment Foundation.org or SAF.org. Bellevue, Washington, August 5th, 2026. A judge for the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas has ruled that the remaining registration scheme for short-barreled rifles suppressors in the National Firearms Act is unconstitutional in Jensen v. ATF, a case supported by the Second Amendment Foundation. Since 1934, the NFA required anyone who wished to purchase certain classes of firearms, including silencers and short-barreled rifles, to pay a $200 tax and register the firearm with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, purportedly drawing from congressional authority to levy taxes. Though the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, however, the tax on these arms was eliminated, but the registration requirement was left in place. SAF and its partners have filed 3 lawsuits challenging the remaining registration requirements because without the tax, Congress' reliance on their taxing power is no longer justifiable. Quote, the basis for each lawsuit challenging the NFA registration scheme is the same. Without the tax, the remaining requirements for the affected arms under the NFA have no constitutional basis, said SAF Executive Director Adam Kraut. And today, the first court to rule on the issue has agreed with us since 1934. Dude, just to put something into perspective here, there have been pro-firearms groups since before 1934. But somehow, they neglected to, get this to court or bother to challenge it in court. I think that's kind of disturbing. Anyway, continuing. And today, the first court to rule on the issue has agreed with us. We are eager to continue this fight and leave major portions of the NFA in the dustbin of history. A big win is a great way to kick things off. SAF itself is a named plaintiff in the NFA lawsuit. Brown v. ATF is backing 2 additional challenges, Roberts v. ATF, and this case, Jensen v. ATF. Plaintiffs in Jensen are SAF's sister organization, Citizens Committee for Right to Keep and Bear Arms, the FPC Action Foundation, Texas Rifle Association, Hot Shots Custom, and 3 individuals. Quote, the removal of the $200 tax in the One Big Beautiful Bill offers the best opportunity to remove the NFA registration requirements that we've had in almost a century, said SAF founder and Executive Vice President Ellen M. Gottlieb. Quote, we are thrilled the court ruled in our favor and look forward to other jurisdictions following suit in our remaining NFA cases. This ruling will set a precedent we can now argue in courts across the country to allow Americans to exercise their Second Amendment rights without fear of being placed in some government registry. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. A little more freedom. And I wanted to continue on this one. I actually had this article going already when we crashed. But it's a kind of a continuation of that last article, or at least an addendum to it. So let's go ahead and go with it. This is on concealedcarry.com. Federal judge strikes down NFA registration for suppressors and SBRs. Quote, update. As of August 13th, the DOJ declined to appeal this court decision. They still have up to 60 days to do so, but there isn't any indication they will, which means this decision stands. The NSSF has requested the ATF to issue guidance to the industry so that FFLs can support gun owners in purchasing these items and remain compliant with the law. In short, hopefully we get more clarity soon from the ATF that will guide your local gun dealer on how to proceed. Last summer, the House passed a version of the One Big Beautiful Bill that would have pulled suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and short-barreled shotguns out of the National Firearms Act entirely. No registration, no fingerprints, no waiting 6 months on a Form 4. Then the Senate parliamentarian got a hold of it, asshole. On July 3rd, 2025, Elizabeth McDonough ruled that the deregulation language violated the Byrd Rule, which governs what can ride along with an addendum bill. Anything not sufficiently tax-related had to come out. Dude, how is it not tax-related? It's an elimination of a $200 tax stamp. I think that's pretty fucking tax-related. The deregulation came out, the tax cut stayed in. Complete bullshit. There's no justification for that. They took away the justification for the tax. So, alright, they took away the tax, basically, but, like, that's actually supposed to be paid for by the tax. The whole enforcement thing is supposed to be paid for with the tax. Anyway. Continuing, so on January 1st, 2026, the transfer and making tax on suppressors, SBRs, SBSs, and quote, any other weapons dropped to $0. The entire registration apparatus built to collect the tax stayed exactly where it was, which left gun owners in a genuinely stupid position. You still submitted fingerprints, photographs, and detailed application, and you still waited for the ATF to approve a purchase you already paid for. all to prove you had paid a tax of $0. Now, a federal judge in Texas has declared that is unconstitutional. What the court actually said. The case is Silencer Shop Foundation versus ATF, decided by U.S. District Judge James Wesley Hendricks in the San Angelo Division of the Northern District of Texas. A second case, Jensen v. ATF, was transferred in from the Amarillo Division and consolidated into it. The opinion runs 66 pages. Here's the whole argument in one paragraph. Congress passed the NFA in 1934 under one specific constitutional power, the authority to lay and collect taxes, not the Commerce Clause, not some general police power, just the taxing power. The Supreme Court blessed it on exactly that basis in Solzhenitsyn v. United States back in 1937, holding that the registration requirements were acceptable because they helped collect the tax. The Supreme Court has also said that the existential feature of any tax is that it produces at least some revenue for the government. $0 produces zero revenue. So the registration scheme now supports a tax that collects nothing, which means it cannot be justified under the taxing power, which is the only power Congress ever invoked. Hendricks put it plainly, because today's NFA does not generate revenue from untaxed firearms, its regulatory provisions cannot be upheld under the taxing power. That is the entire holding. That is not complicated. It is just that nobody could make the argument until Congress zeroed out the tax. The government's fallback arguments. The DOJ saw this coming and had two backup positions ready. Both failed, and how they failed is important, I think. Argument 1. The registry still helps collect the occupational tax. Manufacturers, importers, and dealers still pay an annual tax of $500 or $1,000. DOJ argued that the registration system helps ATF catch people who should be paying that tax and aren't. The court went to the government's own numbers. Between 2026 and 2020, the percentage of untaxed NFA firearms made by manufacturers who already pay the occupational tax was 87.5% for silencers, 88% for SBRs, 97% for AOWs, and 98.5% for SBSs. In 2025, ATF disapproved 691 applications over occupational tax issues out of 2,195,034 total NFA transfers. That is 0.003%. DOJ submitted evidence itself. It sank its own argument. Argument 2. The Commerce Clause. Congress can regulate interstate commerce, so uphold the NFA under that power instead. Hendricks rejected this. Courts cannot retroactively justify a statute under a power Congress never invoked, and the evidence that Congress never invoked the commerce power here is overwhelming. The NFA sits in Title 26, the Internal Revenue Code. Its preamble describes it as a measure to tax. Its subchapter is literally titled, quote, Taxes. It contains no jurisdictional hook tying it to interstate commerce. Compare that to the Gun Control Act of 1968, which lives in Title 18, references interstate and foreign commerce throughout, and was unmistakably a commerce statute. Two different laws passed at different times doing different things. The government learned on some older Fifth Circuit language suggesting the NFA could be upheld under the commerce power. Hendricks called it dicta, noted it predated United States v. Lopez and United States v. Morrison, and pointed out it conflicted with earlier Fifth Circuit decisions that said the NFA's constitutional bedrock is the power to tax, rather than commerce power. Who this actually covers. This is the part that you should probably care about personally. I am not a lawyer, but the structure here is not that hard to follow once somebody lays it out. And Mark Smith at Four Boxes Diner explained it better than anyone else covering this, so I'm going to borrow his framework. Under Article 3 of the Constitution, a federal court can only resolve actual cases and controversies. Practically, that means a judge can only grant relief to the parties standing in front of him. He cannot write a rule for the whole country. The Supreme Court reinforced this hard in Trump v. CASA this last year, which effectively killed the nationwide injunction. Hendricks followed that. His injunction reaches the plaintiffs, their members, and their customers. It stops there. Now here is the useful part. Organizations can sue on behalf of their members. When a member organization is a party and wins, the relief flows through to its members because the organization was representing their interests the whole time. So the practical question is not, quote, am I a gun owner? It is, am I connected to one of the parties in this case? The organizational plaintiffs are Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners Foundation, the Firearms Regulatory Accountability Coalition, the Texas Rifle Association, FPC Action Foundation, and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. The commercial plaintiffs are Silencer Shop Foundation, B&T USA, Palmetto State Armory, Silencer Co., Weapons Research, and Hot Shots Custom. 15 states are also plaintiffs, covering their agencies and political subdivisions. Texas, Alaska, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming. I'm amazed. Montana is on there. If you're not a member of one of those organizations, not buying from one of those companies, and not a law enforcement agency in one of those states, this ruling does not currently protect you. That's not gatekeeping, and it's not a fundraising pitch. It's a structural limit on what federal courts are allowed to do. Several other organizations backed this litigation with money and lawyers without being named parties, and their members are in the same position as everyone else. Backing a case and being a party to a case are different things. One more wrinkle. The Jensen plaintiffs lost standing on AOWs specifically because their complaint and initial declarations never established any intent to make or acquire one. Relief on that category runs only to the Silencer Shop side. Nothing has changed yet. Read this part twice. Hendricks stayed his own injunction for 7 days to give the DOJ time to seek emergency appellate relief. That window runs out around August 12th, which is expired. Until it does, the injunction is not in effect, and if the government asks the Fifth Circuit to hold its injunction pending appeal, and the Fifth Circuit agrees, it may not take effect for a long time after that. The penalties for getting this wrong have not changed either. An NFA violation carries up to 10 years in prison, a $10,000 fine, a forfeiture of the firearm. A felony conviction means a lifetime firearms ban. Some retailers are already running no Form 4, no registry, no weight marketing. Reading those pages carefully because the good ones say once the injunction goes into effect, that conditional is doing a lot of work. Do not build an SBR in your garage this month because you read a headline. What it doesn't touch. Machine guns and destructive devices still carry the full $200 transfer and making tax. Congress left those alone on purpose because that tax still generates revenue. The taxing power still supports their registration requirements. The reasoning in this case does not reach them yet. I have seen commentary suggesting this ruling opens a path to attacking the Hughes Amendment. It does not. The Hughes Amendment is 18 U.S.C. 922-0, part of the Gun Control Act enacted under the Commerce Clause and housed in Title 18. Hendrick's entire argument depends on the NFA being a Title 26 tax statute with no commercial hook. If anything, this opinion draws a sharper line between the two laws. State law is also untouched. The federal court cannot rewrite a state suppressor ban. If you live somewhere suppressors are prohibited, nothing about August 5th changed that. And the Gun Control Act still applies. Even under the injunction, a covered buyer still passes a standard background check at an FFL. The suppressor gets treated like a rifle or a handgun, not like a lawn chair. 3 more cases are coming. This was the first court to rule on the question. It will not be the last. Brown v. ATF is pending in the Eastern District of Missouri before Chief Judge Stephen R. Clark. It was filed August 1st, 2025 and raises the same enumerated powers theory. Roberts v. ATF is pending in the Eastern Court of Kentucky, or the Eastern District of Kentucky, before Judge Chad Meredith. Plaintiffs include Buckeye Firearms Association, the American Suppressor Association Foundation, the Center for Human Liberty, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, and Meridian Ordinance. Those two sit in the 8th and 6th Circuits. This case sits in the 5th. That geography is the whole strategy. If all 3 courts rule the same way, the pressure on Congress to just finish the job legislatively becomes too hard to ignore. If they split, you get a circuit conflict, and circuit conflicts are the most reliable way to get the Supreme Court's attention. Either path takes time. Think in years, not weeks. One caution on following this yourself. Coverage of this ruling has been sloppy. I have seen the wrong judge named, the wrong date reported, the wrong court identified, and plaintiff lists that include organizations that are not parties. When something this big breaks, go to the opinion or the docket. The advocacy groups are moving fast and making mistakes, including on their own case pages. What to do right now? Check whether you're actually covered. Membership in one of the plaintiff organizations or a purchase from one of the plaintiff's companies is what puts you inside the injunction. Nothing else does. Wait for the stay to expire and watch what DOJ does. This administration has been publicly supportive of gun rights while its own attorneys defended the registry in this case. That tension gets resolved in the next week. Do not change your behavior based on a headline. If you are covered and the injunction takes effect, your dealer will know. If you are not covered, the NFA applies to you in full, and the penalties are severe. And if this case taught you anything, it should be that understanding how the law works matters as much as understanding the Second Amendment itself. This win did not come from a Second Amendment argument. It came from a separation of powers argument that most gun owners have never even heard of. That is the part worth internalizing. The people who won this case knew that Congress needs a specific constitutional hook to pass any law, and they knew where to look when that hook disappeared. For the background on how Congress zeroed out the tax in the first place and what got stripped out along the way, read our earlier coverage of the Big Beautiful Bill and the first real blow against the NFA. Wow, that's very long. But in my book, I can see no material limitation for why additional individuals wouldn't be able to challenge the NFA in a similar fashion. You know, because the arguments are centered around Congress taxation instead of the Commerce Clause. Although, you know, you're going to have to challenge the Commerce Clause too. I mean, like, really, what about the First Amendment, or the Second Amendment, says that Congress can go back and winnow away my rights to defend myself and arm myself as I may see fit. So yeah, there's a long road ahead here, you know, that, and I will say this though, it appears as though I may have actually cured my cooling issue, so the likelihood that we're going to get kicked off again is low. As I have said though, unfortunately, I'm in agreement with the 7 or 8 people that are rebroadcasting this, that should I be bumped again, I won't attempt to re-sign on. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. But you know, so far so good. So I think we just roll with it. Let me go ahead and see if I can get to this. And mute that. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and get back to some music. And yeah. And after that, we'll get into some articles again. And as far as what song though, let's go with Into the Void here on the D Shift.
does it break? The pulse of steel we can't forsake. We thrash the silence, make it bleed. Ride the static, 8 hertz of sonic anarchy. come on, come on, come on.
Petitions that constantly reaffirm Israel's right to exist. Because people like me are constantly attacked by politicians for standing up for Palestine, and you are constantly defending the right for Israel to exist. My family is in Palestine right now, constantly under attack, and I'm hearing you say free Palestine, but also Israel has the right to exist. Don't be hypocritical. Don't be hypocritical and say free Palestine when you're also defending the right for Israel to exist. It does not have the right to exist. It does not have the right to exist. It's not your land to say it has the right to exist. Woo! Petitions that constantly...
was high and dry, blinded by the guns, by the grip of salad eye. We were trading wild, thinking we were sly, till the shadows jumped out and tell us the best night.
dear. Molly saw one. And one dogger. Two trons. Stain for being.